both know Todd?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I don't know any of them at all, actually.
Oh, okay. Todd Jordan, basketball coach, men's basketball coach. Going to talk to you about scholarships and kind of maybe give you some insight. And if you have any questions, and he can help you, he'll answer them, I'm sure. But start you on thinking a little bit about the post-secondary route and how you get there, what do you do, all that sort of stuff. So,
sure.
Thanks for coming, Todd.
For guys that aren't in sports where there's university versions of your sport, kind of read between the lines a little bit and think about, it talks about how to approach somebody who you want to be wanting to play or let you into a program, right? So this could apply if you want to apply to a high performance training center.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want the coach to take you in, how do I contact that coach and get on his radar? Or how do I get a sponsor so that I can afford to have the number of skis I need for a season? Right? So if you're going to approach someone and say, I need your help to keep doing what I want to do, try to read between the lines of what he's saying. So he's going to talk specifically about college, university sport, but you should be able to extrapolate some of it to your situation as well.
Yeah. So just while Mr. Lewis handed that stuff out, just so you guys kind of get a background for who I am, I grew up in Prince George. I played basketball here at the university. Afterwards, I went into, or while I was going through school, I did a degree in business. I was an accounting major, okay, but I did a lot of stuff on the marketing end of things. And then I went on and actually became a teacher, got my degree in education, and I taught for a couple years. Before going on, I ended up moving down to Quest University in Squamish and coaching the women's basketball team there for a year. And then I'm now in my 5th year here at UNBC. So I've had an opportunity to, I've been kind of I know the business side of it a little bit from my university stuff. I've had the opportunity to work with high school students as a teacher and as a high school coach. I've had the opportunity to work at the college level on the men's basketball side of things and the women's basketball side of things, as well as in the CIS on the men's basketball side of things. Also, I coached our provincial team. U17, U16 provincial basketball teams I did the U17s for 2 years to the Canada Summer Games 1 year, and I did the U16s for a year as well. So I've had the opportunity to coach athletes that have gone on to play Division I, those sort of things. So I've kind of got a pretty broad range of this subject when it comes to recruiting and those sort of things. And for those of you, again, like Jordan was saying, for those of you who are going on to do things that may not be the university route, but you are working with sponsors, those sort of things. A lot of the information that I'll be talking about here today, it's more about marketing yourself. That's really what trying to get recruited is. It's about marketing yourself, selling yourself to coaches, okay? So what I've put together is just a list of tips, okay? General ideas, and what I wanted you guys to walk out of here today with is a bit of a guide for how you can market yourself. So what I did is I just thought about, all the things that recruits do when I deal with them that, really help them in the process, okay? And also talk about some of the things that they can do to negatively affect themselves in their, my view of them and whether I'm interested in bringing them into our program, okay? So this is number one, and I think this is fairly obvious, but, if you want to get recruited by a school, you need to have the goods, okay? You need to have the ability to play at that level, okay? When coaches go out and they're looking to recruit players, they're obviously looking to recruit, or athletes for their program, they're obviously looking for someone that they hope can help move their program forward, right? So the number one thing that you can do to put yourself in a situation is to train, to do the things to improve your skills, right? And make sure that your ability-wise, you're at the level you want to be at, okay? I mean, you got to have those goals about where you want to be, being realistic about that, and, training to get there, right? You can't just expect that it's going to happen because you're a good guy. The number one thing coaches are looking for, okay, is what's your skill level, what's your ability level, what's your ability to perform and help their program on the field. Now, beyond that, obviously, most coaches are not going to take, people who are poor character people and those sort of things beyond that. But, that's kind of the baseline is that, when I walk into a gym to watch a high school game, I'm looking for who's going to be able to help us at the next level. Okay, obviously we want to have good people in our program, and that's a huge piece, but they also need to be able to perform, okay? Number two, academics are extremely important, okay? And I'm sure you've all heard this, but I'm gonna say it again. The better your grades are, the more doors you can open for yourself, okay? The majority of schools, okay, and I'm know the Canadian system obviously a lot better, but talking to other coaches, other CIS coaches, very, very few coaches can make exceptions when it comes to grades, okay? If you don't have the minimum requirements to get into a university, there's not a whole lot that we can do for you. There might be slight exceptions, like if you're 1 or 2% below, possibly. But, generally, if you don't take care of it in the classroom, you're not going to be able to play where you want to, not going to be able to do the things that you want to. If you want to be a university athlete, you got to have university level marks, okay? So that's a huge piece, making sure you're taking care of your studies, okay? And then the other piece of that, too, is when I look at an athlete, if I have 2 athletes that are at, say admissions average is 65% for a program or 67% or something. If you're sitting right at 67 or 68 and I have 2 athletes that are just like this and one's got 80s, at the end of the day, when that athlete comes to our program, it's my job to help those guys while they're dealing with all the commitments of being a student athlete outside, they're training, we're traveling, we're doing all those extra things. I need to know that the athlete's responsible enough to take care of his commitments in the classroom, and for me, it takes a lot of time out of my day, my commitments. I have a lot of commitments, with fundraising, with recruiting, with all those things. If I have to add time to my day helping, babysitting and making sure that guys are taking care of their stuff in the classroom because they don't have those habits built out of high school, that's something that's going to deter me from possibly recruiting a kid. Okay, so, your academics are extremely important, and I just want to reinforce that with you guys, okay? Number 3. Promote yourself to colleges and universities at which you want to play or compete at, okay? And I guess the same thing would go for those of you looking at sponsors. Promote yourself to those people. Don't just expect because you're performing at a high level that those people are going to know who you are, those people are going to, come to you. You need to go out and be proactive about selling yourself, okay? So if you're not currently receiving interest from the schools, that realistically you're interested in attending, okay, you need to contact them yourself. You need to start that communication. How are you going to beat out athletes that are at a similar level to you, okay? It's an extremely competitive world out there. Coaching basketball and, coaching the provincial teams, I see all kinds of guys that are at very similar levels. So how are you going to separate yourself apart from, that guy who might be down the street from the school you want to go to? How are you going to, put yourself above them, right? And if, on the field or on the court, you guys are at a similar level, there are things you can do so that you become more appealing than that athlete. But if you don't go out and promote yourself, that's not going to happen, okay? Later on, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. We're going to talk about some things you can do to promote yourself, sell yourself a little bit. But, the biggest thing is that, as athletes who live in Prince George, which is a smaller community, okay, for those of you who have aspirations to possibly, leave town or do other things, it's really important that you're promoting yourself because, the reality of it is very few institutions are going to be here seeing you play, so you got to make sure you're finding ways to promote yourself, okay? Number 4, I guess I mixed the memory up, okay? Know the recruiting and scholarship rules, okay, of the level that you're trying to play at, okay? Is there anyone here who is kind of on a track where you may be interested in possibly playing in the NCAA? Have we got anyone? No? 1 or 2? Okay. And it's okay to say that, if that's a goal for you. It's okay to have high-level goals, right? But the biggest thing is that if that's something that's of interest to you, know the rules, okay? Understand that, especially down in the NCAA, a lot of those schools have very specific restrictions about when they're allowed to talk to athletes. They have certain contact periods. There's dead periods where they're not allowed to call, they're not allowed to talk, they're not allowed to be in the gym or on the field with you. And the reason those rules are in place is more to protect, the athletes in the States who have a lot of recruitment interest and just protect them from being overwhelmed. But those rules are out there and you need to know them, okay? so that you don't put yourself in a situation or put that coach in a situation where he may have to do something that's not within the rules of their program, right? So it's important for you to research those things, know those rules. An example of the Canadian system is a lot looser with that. Like generally, we're allowed to talk to athletes year-round, those sort of things. But we do have some specific rules as far as scholarships. Like for example, on the men's basketball side, women's basketball is the same. We cannot, going back to the grades, we cannot scholarship an athlete. So we cannot give an athletic scholarship to an athlete in their first year unless they have an 80% average coming in. Okay, so if you're not 80% or above, we can't give you any kind of athletic award. Okay, now what can happen is when you get to the school, if you get above a 2.0 in your first year, at the end of that first year, we can back in the money so that we could scholarship you at the end of the year. But coming in, like if you don't have the funds readily available to pay your tuition to begin with, if you don't have 80% going in, there's nothing we can do as far as an athletic award. Okay. Another rule that we have to deal with is the amount of athletic awards we are allowed to give. Okay. We are allowed to give up to full tuition. Okay, but we're not allowed to give anything above that. So we can give tuition and fees, but we can't give anything for housing, we can't give anything for books, okay? That's from an athletics award perspective. Now, there's no limitations on the amount of non-athletic awards we can give, okay? Now, those aren't up to the coaches, though. Those are things you have to go out and apply for on your own, okay? Academic awards within the school, leadership awards within the school, those sort of things. So just in general, for those of you who are looking at going to university college after this, get on that stuff early. There's a lot of early admissions awards, and some of the deadlines are coming up fairly quick here. But if you look at the schools you're interested in applying to, and as you apply, you look at their early admissions awards, there's money out there that a lot of people don't apply for, and there's opportunities out there, and it's just by being proactive and getting on those things ahead of time, you can possibly get yourself some funds that can help you out paying for school. Questions about anything we've talked about so far? No? Okay. Okay, another big piece I think is really important, okay? When you're looking at an athletic program and you're going around and you're looking at different opportunities that might exist for yourself, okay? It's really important that you're looking at more than just the athletics program, okay? There's a lot of things. When you go to university, it's going to be one of the defining experiences of your life, okay? What you guys do after high school those next few years is, it's an important part in your development as a person. That time is going to be a very important time in your life, and it's going to be a lot more than just playing sports that's going to affect you during that time. Okay, so you want to take a look at what type of student life opportunities exist at the school I'm looking at. Okay, what type of community supports are there? What type of academic supports are there? Am I a student that might need a little bit extra support with tutoring, those sort of things? Are those available at the school I'm looking at? So all that stuff is really important to take into account. And obviously as a competitive athlete, I understand that one of the major factors is going to be your athletic department or the team you're going to or that coach. And those are really important things to consider, but they're not the only things, okay? And then the other thing is do some research. Okay, do some research on the schools that you're interested in. Right? You can waste, I get this all the time. I have guys email me and say, Coach, I'm very interested in your program. I'm interested in doing this degree or that degree. Well, a lot of times they'll do that and they don't even looked at the school. They don't even know what we offer, what we don't offer, those sort of things. They don't understand that their grades aren't good enough to get in. You can save yourself a lot of time by looking at those things ahead of time. And if you take a look at what I just gave you an example of this is what we have at UNBC, okay? So these, you can find this, every school will have something similar to this, okay? And all it is just basic admission requirements, okay? So there's provincial admissions requirements, and if you look at the back page, it's got the admission requirements by program at UNBC, okay? And different schools obviously will have slightly different admission standards, but basically you can find a basic idea of what you need to get into university. And if you guys haven't done this yet, I'm sure a lot of you have probably spoken with counselors and those sort of things. You need to make sure as you're going into your last semester, next semester for a lot of the grade 12s, you guys need to make sure that you've got the right classes that you can get in. right? I mean, if you look at the provincial admissions requirements, you need English 12 plus 3 approved courses for that's the bare minimum for a lot of universities. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have those things because again, like, it doesn't matter how good of a player you are, I can't get you into the school if you don't have those requirements. Okay, so it's your responsibility to make sure that you've got that stuff taken care of. Okay. This is a big one, okay? Be cautious about who you listen to and keep an open mind. Okay? Be cautious about who you listen to. Everybody you talk to is going to have a certain agenda, right? Your friends who may say, well, why would you go, say a small college in a small community, say Grand Prairie College or something is recruiting you. Why would you ever go to Grand Prairie? Why do you go to a place like that? Well, your friend who's 16 or 17 may have never spent any time in Grand Prairie, may have never seen the college, may have no information, maybe just making a blanket statement without actually having any life experience that backs that up, okay? So it's really important that you have an understanding of there's a lot of really good opportunities out there at small places, small schools, all those sort of things. And making sure that you take in all information, you're listening to your coaches, your family, all those sort of things. But understand that, consider all the information, but understand that you have to, look at that from kind of a backed up perspective and understand that not all of that information is fact. Okay, the best way to find out is to go look at it in person and see it for yourself and do the research yourself. Okay? And that goes into, number 6 here. Don't overlook the small school. Okay? Understand, again, this is going to be a decision that you're making that's going to have a major impact, on the rest of your life, right? So, you want to make sure that you're going to a place that's going to give you the best opportunity to develop as a student, as an athlete, as a person over the next, 4 to 6 years. Okay? Can we maybe see if that guy can hang out for a little bit? Okay. So in a lot of cases, the smaller institutions, and I deal with this all the time because, as you guys know, Prince George, a lot of Lower Mainland people don't know much about it, that sort of thing. And when I'm recruiting Lower Mainland kids, what ends up happening is people say, oh, why would you go up there? But they don't know anything about it, right? When we bring kids up for visits, they see the school, okay? They see the teammates that they're going to have. They see, that we have a great university. Even some of the local guys in town here, right? A lot of people live in Prince George their whole life and not really know what's offered right on their back door. And there's a lot of small universities, small colleges, those sort of things that have great opportunities that can, give you a great experience over that 5-6 years. So, I understand that for some of you going to a bigger institution might be what you really want to do. All I'm saying is consider different possibilities. Don't overlook something until you've looked into it, okay? Because you never know, it might be something that is really good for you or that might really fit you. And if you don't take a look at it and you overlook it because of your personal biases to begin with, you may pass up an opportunity that could be the best opportunity for you, okay? So all I'm saying is just, have an open mind to those things. When looking at a school, consider the financial implications if you were to go there, okay? Even if the coach offered you a spot, could you afford it? Are you willing to take a student loan? How much scholarship money would you require to make that a realistic option for you? Okay? It's really important that you have answers to those questions, okay? And you can be upfront with those things to begin with. I'll get emails from guys out in Toronto or the other side of the country, who will basically email me and say, well, do you have a spot? Well, if they can't afford to come across the country and do those things, it doesn't matter, right? So again, this is something you can save yourself a lot of time. Be very upfront with the coach when you're talking to him about what you can afford, what you can't, those sort of things. And understand that, for most of you, even with a scholarship, there's going to be some financial costs if you're going to leave home, right? It's not going to be... there's this misnomer out there with especially some of the NCAA stuff that, people are just given all kinds of money and those sort of things, and that's not the reality. Going to university, there's costs involved, okay? So you need to make sure that you've, looked into those things, okay? And, you're realistic about what's can be a reality for you, okay? And, if it's a little bit above what you can afford, what are you going to do to get yourself there, okay? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to take a loan? Are you willing to take a job when you go to campus? All those sort of things, okay? Go for a visit, okay? if you have an opportunity to go see a school, do it. Okay, if coach invites you for a visit, go do it. I mean, you can find out a lot of times your perception of what a school might be like, whether it be UBC or UNBC or whatever. The best way to really get a feel for it is to go visit, meet the coach in person. Okay, meet who your teammates would be, or who your fellow athletes would be, other students, meet some professors, those sort of things. Get a feel of what the campus is actually like. Okay, that's the best way to get a feeling about an institution, right? And if someone's recruiting you and you're not sure about it, the best way to figure it out is to go for a visit, right? And it might cost you a little bit of money to get on a plane or get on a bus or whatever and go do that. But it's a big decision, and it's a small price to pay to be sure, right? So taking the time to go out and meet people and do all those sort of things is important, because I guarantee you this: your perception of what the school is like is very rarely going to meet the reality of what it's actually like, and that can go either way, positive or negative. Okay, I've got an athlete with my program. I've got multiple athletes with my program now, who were kind of on the fence about whether they even wanted to come and see the school, that sort of thing. They come in for a visit, they see our facility, they see the things we can offer, they meet their teammates, and it just completely changes what their perception of things actually are. Okay, my starting point guard this year was a starting point guard in the provincial team about 5 years ago. Okay, he was a kid that had very little interest in Prince George, coming to a small community, those sort of things. Convinced him to come up and take a visit, and it completely changed his perspective about it, right? And the same thing can happen, for you guys. Just, again, seeing the reality of what's actually out there rather than just what your perception of it is. You guys got any questions at this point? Let's stop for a second. No? You guys got any comments to add to any of that?
I got when you're talking scholarships, you're not, every athlete isn't scholarshiped. So what are you looking at? Like, how many scholarship athletes might you have on your team?
Right. So I mean, I don't know the rules for all the different sports. For CIS basketball, we have a 70% rule. So I'm allowed to give up to 70% of our roster. So I can basically, we have 12 on our roster. I can have 8.4 full tuition scholarships. Okay. So again, just going back to the reality of the situation, like if you were to take a look at my team, I've got 3 international athletes. Most of the CIS teams at this point are filling up their rosters with 3 international athletes, because that's where we can go and get high-level guys. Okay, and then between those 3 usually are on full tuition scholarships, and then you're looking at every program probably has those 3 plus another 5.5 type of scholarships to give away, right? So again, the reality of it is not everybody is going to be getting financial aid from an athletic perspective, right? Now we have a lot of guys that may not get athletic money, but they're good students, so they can get academic scholarships and those sort of things. But the reality of it is that outside of NCAA Division I, really, I don't think there's a lot of places where people are getting full tuition, full ride type of scholarships, right? There's not as much money out there as people think there is. At the end of the day, as a college athlete, you get a lot of things that are offered to you as far as, we pay for all travel, meal money, there's meal money given on the road, all those sort of things. So there are a lot of perks and benefits that come with it. But there's athletic scholarship money out there, but it's not, again, you have to be willing to pay some costs, because there are some costs that come with it. Answer your question?
Yeah. And then because I think you're going to get into it here, so maybe you can correct me, but I just, where Todd was going with the promotion versus recruitment.
Yeah. Right?
Like, you heard it, when you walk into a gym and you're scouting, right? There's a lot of people at that same level. Everybody wants the MVP. Reality is, everybody wants him. So how do you separate that idea that, I think for kids and parents, there's this idea that if we just make it to this tournament and we play well, there's just like a bank of coaches with their checklist, and then I'll get a call, right? And that's...
No, that's not the reality, though.
It's not the reality, right? That promotion piece.
Well, I'll give you guys an example, right? Like, I coach the provincial teams in the summer, and I see some kids doing that. But during the course of the season, most Canadian coaches don't have full-time assistants that can go out and recruit and do those things. Well, every weekend for the basketball guys, like every weekend that Tyrell, you're out playing, 95% of them we're in league games or we're in tournaments, and I'm preparing, I'm doing things. So like the reality of it is for me to get out and see as many games as I would like to see and see as much of that stuff as I'd like to see is not going to be, you know, I'm not going to get out to that much stuff just because of the reality of my season. And, you know, my number one commitment during the year is to my team, right? So, you know, how is that coach going to be able to see you, right? And the reality of it is that through the CIS, there's all kinds of coaches that are in a very similar situation to me, right? Smaller communities, and, you know, they're not able to go out and travel and see, and especially as an athlete in Prince George, right? You know, for those coaches to see you on a consistent basis is going to be difficult for them. So how do you promote yourself so that they can see you, so they do know who you are, right? And the last 2 pages of this is all going to be me talking about that. But it's really important that you know, you put yourself out there and not just expect that you're going to get that call, right? You know, obviously the top end guys, you know, everybody wants those guys and there's a lot of interest in them. You know, but you know, most guys aren't in that situation, right? So how do you promote yourself and get yourself to a place so that you have that opportunity once you get to the next level to develop yourself to where you want to get to, right? There's a lot of roads to get to your goals.
And that's where this next piece, I think Todd's going to get into, is key, even for the non-sport athletes, because as he mentioned before, it's the same thing. If there's a sponsor out there, everybody wants a sponsor. The dog sled team wants a sponsor. The youth soccer team wants a sponsor. Like everybody wants the money from the same people. So how do you separate yourself, you know, and get yourself noticed as an athlete to say, here's what I bring to the table? And it's huge. It's different for you because you're supposed to be modest and, you know, not brag. There's a time when it's time to brag the right way. And then, so this is a key piece for everyone to do.
Yep. Next piece, ask a lot of questions, okay? So when you're speaking with a coach, don't be afraid to ask them some of the tougher questions, right? Like, you know, most coaches are not going to guarantee you playing time or guarantee you, you know, a certain status on a team or whatever. But, you know, and to be fair, I don't think that's, if a coach is guaranteeing you that stuff, you should be a little bit cautious anyway, because at the end of the day, I think good programs have their athletes, they earn what they get, right? You know, and as sports school athletes who are in here training every day, I think that should be something that's pretty ingrained in you guys already, is understanding that, like, you need to earn what you get. But at the same time, most coaches can give you a pretty good idea, you know, of where they see you, right? You know, do they see you as someone that can, you know, have a fairly big impact on their program down the road? How do they see your potential? All those sort of things, because that's some information you're going to need to ask. You know, like if you're going to be a redshirt for 4 years, you got to make sure you ask those specific types of questions, because you know, the coach may not just volunteer that information, right? So it's important that you're asking those, you know, hard types of questions. You know, do we get meal money when we go on the road? What happens when we travel? Do we take all our players when we travel? All those sort of things are going to have an impact on your final decision. So it's important that you've, you know, sat down and thought about all of those types of questions that might come up. You know, what grade level do I have to keep to maintain my scholarship? All those sort of things, right? So that you can ask those questions and get that information and help you in your decision-making process. You know, and go see an advisor, right? You know, if you're getting close to the point where you might be interested in committing to a school, get on the phone with an advisor, go meet with an advisor, an academic advisor at the school, and let them know what you want to do academically. And it's okay to say, I'm not sure what I want to do academically. I'm kind of interested in these routes. How many of you guys have no clue what you want to do academically right now? Okay, a few of you guys. I deal with that all the time. Right? I mean, when I was 17 or whatever, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go to the university, but that was, you know, at that point, making that fun. And there's nothing wrong with going to university for a year and taking some different stuff if you don't know, and kind of trying to figure that out, right? And there's nothing wrong with saying that, but at the same time, you should see an advisor and make sure you're completely aware of what options are available for you at the institutions you're talking to, okay? Number 10, okay? Dreams and goals are great, but you must also keep your options open, I should say, open there, and create other opportunities for yourself in case those dreams don't fall through, okay? So, you know, for a lot of guys, and I see it all the time, especially coaching some of the provincial team level athletes in this, and it's, you know, I want to be a Division I level basketball player. Well, you know, the reality of it is it's very competitive to get there. And there's nothing wrong with striving and wanting those things. I want you guys to understand, there's nothing wrong with pushing yourself to be the best you can and having those like goal. That's how greatness happens when people strive to achieve things that are supposed to be unrealistic, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But while you're doing that, you also have to make sure that you're not closing doors for yourself. Okay, I'll tell you guys a bit of a story. I had a kid playing on my provincial team who, to be fair, he didn't really understand what level he was really at. There's a university coach there. We had our college coach that was there watching the game, right? And he was from a smaller college. And this kid sat up in the stands and basically, was disrespecting the coach's program, saying, why would he come here? Who would ever go there? This and that, right? Well, that coach happened to be a coach that was very well respected. He coached at the college, but very well respected amongst other coaching circles. So what happens when, the coach who's not there, who calls him because they know he was there and say, what do you think of this kid? And the guy says, he's a jerk, right? The doors get shut right away, right? Because, he had inflated dreams, but didn't keep his other options open, right? So really important that even though, you might have those goals, pursue the smaller school options, those sort of things. Look at some other places. You're not forced to commit to anybody, right? You have every right to contact those schools, see what they offer, those sort of things, and give yourself a wide variety of options that you can pursue, okay? And, the reality of it is, too, guys, is that, for those of you who are interested, you gotta look at who's actually recruiting you, right? If you put all the information out there about yourself, you've done a good job of promoting yourself. As you start to get to the end of your grade 12 year, you got to understand that the schools that are talking to you, it's probably where you're realistically at, right? And the number one thing is you have to promote yourself so that the schools that are at that level see you. But, you have to also understand that who's recruiting you is probably realistically where you're at that point, okay? And then 11, again, going back to the story I just said, treat everyone with respect. Okay, understand that coaches talk to each other. Coaches talk to other players. There's a lot of communication. It's a small circle, right? It's a small circle within your sport. Might seem big, but all the CIS coaches know each other on the basketball side. We talk to each other, on a daily, weekly basis. And if you're walking around acting like a jerk, everybody's going to know it. Okay, so make sure if a coach contacts you and you're not interested in their school, well, do that coach the courtesy of replying to that email, replying to that phone call, right? And if you're honestly not interested, you looked into it and it's not for you,